Call to order this meeting of the Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners. I would note that all commissioners are here with the exception of Mr. Engel, who is excused. And we did meet in executive session to discuss matters permitted by law, including personnel. We will have a Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence, and if we could, and thank you, Commissioner Johnson, for pointing this out, keeping our thoughts and prayers, all those from our area and nationwide who died on 9/11 17 years ago in New York and our own fields here in Pennsylvania. So with that, I would ask that the pledge would be led by Commissioner Johnson.
Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We'll start off with petitions, complaints. Anybody from the audience wish to address the board tonight on any matter? Not tonight, Russ? Okay. Going once, going twice. Closed. Sold. Okay, approval minutes, August 9th, 2018, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the August 23rd workshop meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of committees, buildings and grounds. Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you. Budget and Finance, Commissioner Sanderson.
Nothing as pointed as discussions we've had in the past, but it's September, so this is officially budget season. We've had good lengthy discussion this year, starting in March. Normal procedure is to adopt a preliminary budget in November and a final budget in December. So that actually gives us just 2 months, approximately, to review the line items, talk about revenue and expenses. So the time draws near. If you don't have any thoughts, that's fine, but we'll be voting on it in just a couple of months. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your work on that. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. The Public Works report for the month of August, located in the 3rd Ward, no parking lines were painted on Her Street, and the drainage pipes and inlets were replaced on Brookvale Court and Beaufort Hunt. And as a final note, Mr. President, residents are reminded leaving grass clippings in the street can be harmful to drivers and pedestrians, stormwater sewer systems and streams. You can be cited and fined in accordance with the Township Ordinance 10-101. So you might want to ask yourself the question, what should I do with the yard trimmings? You want to sweep them and collect and bag and clip those leaves. You want to blow the grass clippings back onto the yard where they can become mulch and natural fertilization. And you want to or either rake or blow the clippings onto the compost pile where you can be decomposed without odor. This ends my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next scheduled yard waste pickup by Penn Waste is Saturday, September 15th. Please have your woody waste materials at the curb or alley prior to 6 a.m. that day. Recently, there has been some confusion regarding the approved containers for yard waste collection. Penn Waste had released a flyer stating that yard waste should be placed in brown paper craft bags. While these bags are acceptable receptacles for yard waste, plastic or metal buckets or barrels and cans are also still acceptable. As always, plastic bags are not permitted for yard waste collection. In the month of October, Penn Waste will collect residents' yard waste on the 1st and 3rd Saturdays of the month, being October 6th and October 20th. In recent months, there's also been some confusion regarding which specific materials township residents may place in their recycling bins for pickup by Penn Waste. For all intents and purposes, the list of acceptable materials has not changed for township residents. Although Penn Waste has instituted new policies for recycling with other municipalities, Susquehanna Township residents may continue to recycle as they have in the past per our contract with Penn Waste. As a reminder, the following items are acceptable to place in your recycle bin: metal food and beverage containers, glass, newsprint, magazines, plastics number 1 through 7, food cartons such as cereal boxes, cardboard, office paper, and food cartons from items such as ice cream and chicken broth. There's been a lot of questions floating around on various social media and neighborhood networks about this, so I thought it was worth covering again. So thank you. That
And-
concludes my report.
And can I just add one thing to that, Commissioner? Thank you so much for bringing it up because it is important and there's been a lot of discussion around it. And I will say there has also been some discussion around Penn Waste policy in terms of what they do when they get that material. And I wish the circumstances were different, but the fact of the matter is we cannot dictate to Penn Waste what they do with it. What they do with those materials once they take them. If it's not profitable to recycle them, that's a decision for Penn Waste to make. And again, I wish it were different. I wish we had some recourse, but unfortunately we do not. So I just want to make that clear as well. They, as a private company, can do with it what they see fit. However, as Commissioner Robarczyk said, continue to recycle as you have been.
Well put.
Thank you.
Thank you. Administration and Personnel, Commissioner Napper.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Police, Commissioner Engel is excused tonight, and we have three items. Do you want to lead us off, Chief, and then Commissioner Fleming?
Absolutely. We have a new civil service list before you from the Civil Service Commission, so I'm just going to go down through this, and my first recommendation is to decertify the existing civil service hiring list.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that we decertify the existing civil service hiring list.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Secondly, I recommend that the board certifies the new civil service hiring list provided to you, signed by Mr. Kresge.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that the board certify the new civil service hiring list.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, my next request is going to be that we make a conditional offer of employment pending the passing of a physical, psychological, and polygraph examination for Mr. John Marsh, who is number 1 on the list.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that we make a conditional offer of employment to Mr. John Marsh pending the passage of a physical, psychological evaluation, and polygraph exam.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And lastly, that we also make a conditional offer of employment pending the passing of a physical, psychological, and polygraph examination to Mr. Brian Aponte, who is number 2 on the list.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that we make a conditional offer of employment to Mr. Brian Aponte pending the passage of a physical, psychological evaluation, and polygraph exam.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you,
And
Chief.
Chief, just for public information, when do we expect the officers to start, assuming they meet the conditions?
I think one can potentially start within the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then, of course, the other not till January.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 2019.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else for police, Commissioner Johnson or
I don't.
Commissioner Fleming? Nope. Okay. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Fleming.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Recreation, Commissioner Johnson.
No report.
Thank you. Planning Zoning, Commissioner Rothrock.
There was a planning commission meeting scheduled for August 27th, which was canceled due to a lack of agenda. There was a zoning hearing board scheduled for the 5th of September, had one item on the agenda, and that item was withdrawn, so that meeting was also canceled. The next zoning hearing board is scheduled for October the 3rd. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, moving on to bids and agreements. Mr. Kratzer, we have a vehicle for sale.
Yes, Mr. President. We're seeking authorization to advertise for sale a 2006 GMC 2500 cargo van, which was used by the police department as a crime scene vehicle. As you'll recall, I think it was Commissioner Sanderson that had reported the authority had authorized the transfer of a previous van that was being used for purposes of televising sanitary sewer lines to the township for use by the police department. So we're just simply disposing of the prior vehicle that was being used by the police department for a crime scene vehicle. So we're just seeking authorization to advertise for sale this evening. Motion made.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to actions on ordinances and resolutions. We have a couple of them here. Resolution 18R12, which would authorize the manager to sign and submit an application for traffic signal approval, signal modification, to PennDOT for the intersection of Linglestown Road and Oakhurst Boulevard.
Probably do them all at the same time.
Mr. President, if I may,
Mr. Grubik?
resolutions 18R12 through 18R18 are all essentially identical resolutions for the purpose of modifying the traffic signals within the Linglestown Road corridor of Susquehanna Township for the development of both the Blue Ridge Country Club in Lower Paxton and the pending development of the Union Green development in Susquehanna Township. The reason the modifications are being required is that there will be an interconnect of the signals from Patton Road in Lower Paxton all the way west to Deer Path Road, actually to Far Green Road in Susquehanna. So it will ultimately provide a much more fluid flow of traffic through the corridor. However, PennDOT does require a resolution for each individual intersection for the signal modifications. So my recommendation would be to approve the resolutions, but I believe they can be taken as one motion with the resolutions 18R12 through 18R18 approved.
That pass muster with the Law Bureau?
It's fine with me.
Just for the record, I will say they all involve Linglestown Road, State Route 39, and as I mentioned before, Oakhurst Boulevard, Blue Mountain Commons Driveway, Progress Avenue, Crooked Hill Road, Deer Path Road, Far Green Road, and Sturbridge Drive. Is there a motion to accept these resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Is this just going to synchronize the lights going westward?
Both ways.
Both ways?
They will be synchronized in both the east and west direction, and ultimately it will actually provide as I said, a much better traffic flow with the development of Blue Ridge Country Club and Susquehanna Union Green as they occur.
If I'm not
We can use
mistaken,
that without the developments, for that matter.
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, PennDOT did this already on Route 22. So
That's correct.
So
yeah.
that each intersection is actually it counts the cars.
The Route 22 corridor is a little different. That's called an adaptive signal process, wherein it goes from the city of Harrisburg through Pembroke, through Susquehanna, all the way out to Lower Paxton, and it does basically do a real-time analysis of traffic flow and adjust the cycles of the signal to allow for those periods. This will be a little different, but it will be basically providing the same type of service along the Linglestown Road corridor. But as I said, PennDOT does require each individual signal to be, when there's a modification, they do require a permit modification for each signal as opposed to the aggregate of the signals.
And I suppose Lower Paxton will be doing the ones.
Lower Paxton will be
west of
doing the
Patton.
exact same thing,
Patton
yes.
and east.
From
West.
yes, they will be doing everything from Colonial to Patton, which or to only do 6.
Right. Okay. All right, good. Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4391 Sturbridge Associates. This was a request to reduce the site improvement guarantee at 4391 Sturbridge from $302.50 to $0. Sounds okay, Bob?
I would recommend its approval, yes. It's for some minor, very small piece of road that needed the wearing course added. Paving.
That's the same road that they had offered, well, I guess we have to have a motion first, right?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. That's the same road that was requested that we accept the road a couple of months ago?
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't a formal request at that point to accept the road. They were asking for some considerations relative to the adjacent sidewalk and so forth, if you
Right.
recall. But we have not heard anything further from the consulting engineer that was working on behalf of the developer as it relates to acceptance. So, but you are correct, it is the same roadway segment, yes.
Okay, anything else? Everyone in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business, is there any? Hearing none. Mr. Kratzer, do you have anything tonight?
We have two traffic studies to present this evening, Mr. President. If Rob, if you would mind coming up and speaking about both of those. The first relates to the installation of speed humps at Redwood Street, and then the second is the four-way stop.
We don't have to.
Mr. President, the first study relates to a request that we received to do a study of speed humps on Redwood Street. Traffic study was completed, recommends no speed humps be installed, and essentially this is the stretch of Redwood from Schoolhouse Lane south to Union Deposit Road. I concur with this recommendation. And actually, one of the things that was derived from this recommendation was there's a stop sign at Earl Street that we conduct more enforcement there. That's I think the crux of the problem, so we've already put that in place.
Chief, I thank you for that. I'm kind of an advocate of a speed bump on that stretch of road in the northern section of Redwood, but I certainly appreciate and respect the judgment of the police department. But I would ask if there can be just an extra vigilance there, not only for that intersection, but to the extent that you're able, just the speed in general along that stretch. I know that some of the neighbors have complained about that section of Redwood's kind of used as a shortcut.
It
you know,
is.
going,
It is,
Yeah.
without question.
which, you can't do anything about that, but
Yeah.
you can certainly try to.
Yeah, they're avoiding South Progress,
Right.
in most cases, to get from Schoolhouse down to Union
And avoid
Deposit
the
Road.
intersection, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I understand that, but, yeah, anything we can do that, to increase the monitoring of that.
Absolutely.
situation, we'd appreciate it.
Will do.
Thanks, Chief.
And that gets a lot of traffic before school and after school, because it can access that Mayflower Alley there.
Right.
Yeah, along to school.
Okay.
The second study is actually something that's been under review for quite a long time, and it's a road that, without question, has received an appreciable increase in traffic. Is Deer Path Road and Crooked Hill Road, and the study recommends install a four-way stop sign intersection at that location. There's already a two-way stop sign. I'm recommending a four-way. I'm also recommending the installation of crosswalks. That intersection is a major hub for bus stops, essentially almost 4 hours a day. I drive through it every morning that I come to work, and it's busy. There is a lot of children there, and there's a lot of traffic going north and south on Crooked Hill Road. So I think this is a definite increase in safety for that corridor, in addition to the speed humps that are going in now.
Yeah, I had a question about that, Chief. Is the purpose of the stop sign to traffic calming the same as the speed humps?
I would say no. I think the purpose is that we have a lot of cross-traffic there with children coming from the east side of Deer Path Woods over to the west side for the
To
school
get to
bus.
the bus stop.
Without question, yes. So I think that the four-way stop and the crosswalks will be a very
Yes,
positive.
I'm anticipating questions from my constituents as to why we put a speed bump 30 feet in front of this intersection and then we put a stop sign.
Understood,
But my answer will be, it's to protect the kids from crossing the street.
without question, yes.
Thank you.
And those four corners really, at least two of the four, but I think sometimes more are used as, well, are used as bus stops as early as 6:30 in the morning for some parochial school students. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when it's still dark out. So I think, thank you so much for your work on this, Chief. And it's been something that we've tried to work on for many years. And it's just as the traffic increases in that area. I mean, morning commute, you've got the morning commute, you've got the afternoon commute. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And the one constant there, I was back there the other day, is there's going to be increased traffic. You know, they just cleared out more there. I saw at Margaret's Grove for development. And as it continues east, that traffic is going to continue to flow to this signal to go out towards North Front Street.
And I suspect as development continues on Linglestown Road, you're going to see more people using that back end as a cut through from
Yep.
Progress Avenue
Yes.
down to down to the light at Deer Path.
Yes.
Seeing a lot of it on Crooked Hill Road too. And one problem I see in my ward is the stop sign at Hidden Trail Road. And I know you place officers there sometimes, but people for some reason cannot see those stop signs.
Yeah.
They just fly right through them.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you putting the officers out there, Chief.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to make a motion, if there hasn't been one already,
This would be for what, Counselor?
Well, I assume that the motion.
for the
was to-
four-way stop.
Right.
Need an ordinance, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion to advertise an
To prepare
ordinance.
and advertise the respective ordinance
correct.
implementing the improvements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Chief?
No, sir. No.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Miller, do you have anything tonight?
No, I have my report, which I've already submitted to the commissioners, so anything else, I've updated you in executive session.
Okay. Mr. Grover?
Mr. President, if I may, two follow-up items from our workshop meeting 2 weeks ago. One related to the roadway situation on Paxton Church Road, west of Shutt Mill Road, the condition of the roadway. We have done some preliminary studies and looked at some geotechnical studies related to the roadway. It is not in imminent danger of failure. However, we are continuing the studies to determine just what the extent of the work that would need to be done, and attempting to establish some parameters for not only controlling the drainage but also ultimately repairing the roadway. So more to come on that. It's underway, and we're going to be moving that ahead very quickly. Second item relates.
Mr. Gruber, can I just ask you a
Sure.
quick question? So is the roadway safe for fire apparatus?
It's our opinion that it is now.
It is, okay.
As of the last time we looked at it, which was last week.
Okay,
It has not deteriorated beyond what it had been when we first looked at it. And I know Fire Marshal Drees had a meeting with the PEMA representatives out there in an attempt to solicit some requests for grants for the upgrade of that roadway to help offset the township's costs.
okay.
Just as a matter of practice, I think George is going to continue to recommend that there be limited utilization just because of the weight of the apparatus, not because there's any imminent issue relative to catastrophic failure. But again, as you know, some of that apparatus is quite heavy. So I think just as as it's being evaluated, his general advice is to try to avoid, if possible, obviously, if there's an emergency response, then we have the capability and the capacity to get to that, so.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
And
Sorry for interrupting.
the second item relates to the Union Deposit Road sidewalk project, which is almost complete with the exception of some railings along some of the areas on what I would consider to be the low point of the road. We had a walkthrough the other day with the contractor and township staff, representatives of our office, and with PennDOT. And everything looked very good. There were a couple minor punch list items that the contractor will be addressing within the next few weeks. So the project was completed ahead of schedule and will be completed under budget once the credit change order is established, Commissioners.
That's good to hear.
You're getting that money back, Rocky.
Where's that change order?
Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, right? Where's it? Yeah.
We have it under control.
Bob, what is your projection of timing for the handrails there?
Within the next week, they
Okay.
are fabricated, and the contractor is going to have them delivered to the site hopefully early next week.
Great, thank you.
Mr. President?
Yep.
If I may, Mr. Grubik, I have a question regarding the Uptown construction project. Now, I understand there's been yet another setback because of utility conflict with Suez.
There has.
And they've been on site and started moving the water line so that we can continue with the project. Is there any idea of a completion date? As you can imagine, residents by this point in the second year of the project are looking for some information
Talking
on
about
that.
for the whole project or just for the Suez part of the relocation?
No, the whole project.
Okay. The whole project, as it stands right now, is expected to be finished in early 2019, early next year. So here we are, mid-September. By the time everything gets done with regard to the additional utility relocations by Suez and the completion of the outstanding work for the contractor, I would say early 2019, looking February, March, something like that.
Never-ending story, huh? It'll be done soon someday. It's like the bridges over 83.
Yeah, good analogy.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this project for everybody. I mean, poor record keeping as far as where utilities are located, and it's just a mess.
Anything else, Mr. Grubik?
Next year.
That concludes my report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. School Board, Commissioner Fleming.
No report, Mr. President.
Authority, Commissioner Sanderson.
Thank you. No, other than a brief delivery mention of the new video camera truck, which is awesome. It's really cool. It's a mobile office with all sorts of video camera equipment. And hey, if you want to know where your pipes go, you got to have one of those. So just letting everybody know. We're upgrading our equipment to upgrade our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any wheels? Commissioner Barczyk.
No report, thank you. I do have a shade tree
Shade
report,
tree?
though. Thank you,
Okay.
yeah. The Shade Tree Commission reminds residents and businesses that it is the property owner's responsibility to trim the branches of trees located on your property which hang less than 14 feet above any road or alleyway or less than 8 feet above any sidewalk. Also, residents are required to remove dead branches greater than 2 inches in diameter from any trees located on their property. It is also the property owner's responsibility to remove any dead tree located on their property, as well as grind the stump and replace the tree for those trees located in the tree lawn or the right-of-way. I know these announcements have been made in the past, but it bears repeating. Low-hanging limbs have impeded and damaged school buses. They can damage fire apparatus and other large township vehicles. Low-hanging branches over the sidewalks obviously limit pedestrians' ability to walk safely. It's critical that property owners remove dead branches and dead trees, especially as we enter hurricane season. The threat to the loss of property and loss of life is very serious when the storms take down the limbs and trees. While tree maintenance can be expensive, it's far less costly to remove dead tree limbs and dead trees than the expenses incurred from damage to homes, vehicles, and threat to humans by fallen trees and limbs. Property owners are strongly encouraged to regularly monitor and maintain your trees to protect not only yourself, but also your neighbors. Try to budget ahead for these expenses and talk to your neighbors who also have trees on their property about jointly hiring an arborist to potentially reduce the cost. And if you're aware of a dead tree or a tree with large dead branches in your neighborhood, please contact the township with this information so the property owner can be notified accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Communications, Commissioner Pine.
Yes, Mr. President, I want to make township residents aware of the fact that within a month's time, the township newsletter for the fall and winter period will be arriving. I think October 8 is the projected date, somewhere in that ballpark. It'll include articles on the new sidewalk on Union Deposit Road, as referenced by our engineer just now, Veterans Park renovations, Boyd Park development and construction plans, summer recreation program recap, as well as some articles on senior citizen services, including the Meals on Wheels, Indian Wheels, senior softball, and senior fitness class. The newsletter will also include voter information for the November general elections, newly released recycle guidelines from Penn Waste, as well as the usual information from all the township departments. So, arriving at your mailbox somewhere around early October. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Commissioner Johnson.
I don't have a report, but Nate, I'd hate to put you on the spot, but I do have a question to ask you. I noticed that they started working on Edgemont Park. Could you come up and talk about that for a moment? My daughter has asked me about the park, asked me where they're getting rid of the park down there.
We're actually taking the basketball courts down as part of a Parks and Rec project. Mr. Chris Handles from the Harlem Globetrotters, his foundation is paying for new basketball courts and rims and new resurfacing as part of that project. Public Works Department is doing the labor.
Do you know when you guys will have it completed?
We're hoping to have it completed by next Tuesday, if the weather holds out.
Oh, next Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is our end anyway, and then the gentleman who's going to lay the acrylic on the basketball courts is going to come in right after us.
Oh, so it won't be completely completed?
We're hoping to have it completed by next Thursday because Chris wants to do a grand opening for the park, a re-grand opening on the 22nd, which is Saturday.
Yeah.
He's in China right now. He hopes to be back the 21st.
Okay, yeah, I was going to talk about that. I didn't know if by the 22nd it would be completed, but I guess it will, huh?
We're sure hoping so.
Okay.
We had a couple setbacks, but we worked through them. So it depends on the weather.
Do you know what time it is so we could just let the Edgemont community know? Or
I do not know.
Yeah.
I won't be here in town. I think I'm on vacation that weekend.
Okay.
So, but I can reach out to him and email you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
be happy to put the information on the website, the township website as well,
Okay.
making folks aware that there's this rededication of this facility.
Thank you.
very
You're
generous.
welcome.
Thank
So it will be down for a few days, but we're hoping to get it back up here soon.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it won't be in operation until he actually does the rededication. So.
Okay. Well, there's still another basketball court there for them to
No,
play.
they're both being done.
Are they?
They're
Oh,
both
wow.
being, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, everything's being done as far as the courts. Both courts
Awesome.
are being.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
hey, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Yep.
And
Mr.
thanks to
President, could
Mr. Franklin
I
for his
go off
generosity.
topic second? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Everybody talking.
While I had Nate sat back down. I just wanted to thank you and the Highway Department for the speed humps on Continental, which we've been trying to get done for a while, and I know you've been fighting terrible weather this year, as we all have been. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for that. And I do have a question about that.
Yes, sir.
That one of the people posting on the Nextdoor website raised a good question. That is, is there going to be some painting as weather
Yes.
permits there so people could see them coming?
That's correct. That's a hot tape application. So we have to heat the ground to apply that. Because of the damp weather, we were unable to do that just as of now. So there's cones placed there just so that someone doesn't hit that. And
Oh, there's
you know,
cones on a couple of them, and there's not cones on
there should be cones on them all. Do we remove any cones? I'll go by tonight and check.
Yeah,
There,
check
there will
them.
be cones there tonight.
I think the
if they
cones
have
are a
been
good
removed.
idea. I actually knew they were there and they hit one a little too fast. So.
Yeah, so we'll make sure they're in sight. We'll make sure they're in sight. But that's on the agenda for early next week if we can get some decent weather to
Okay, excellent.
go out. Okay?
Very good.
Thank you.
And thank you again.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Anybody else need Nate for anything?
Well, under recreation, what, Veterans Park, anything new? Is there a new date set up
Yeah,
for
we
the
had
ribbon cut?
a ribbon cutting for the playground restoration for last night. It was canceled for weather.
Yeah, but the last information I received that they had not planned another date.
That is correct, Vice
Yeah.
President. At this point, there is no make-up date. I think it was a discussion that the Recreation Advisory Committee was going to have relative to rescheduling that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So if we reschedule, excuse me, sorry about that. If we reschedule, it'll be on the website.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the good news is it's still in use. You know, kids are using it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the facility is being well used.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to your point, Mr. President, yes, the facility is up and operational and being enjoyed.
Yep. Okay. Anything
Thank you.
else?
That was all I had. That's my
Okay.
report, yeah.
New business. Obviously, we have the zoning hearing board vacancy that still needs filled. Anybody else have any new business?
I do, Mr. President.
Yes.
In the minutes that we just approved from last month, we've been discussing multiple occasions the establishment of a PACE program, and I haven't heard any objections related to creating one, and I was hoping to ask the board for agreement to draft a program with council's assistance, and then present it and talk about its advantages.
Well, I'm happy to start working with you, Commissioner Sanderson, on trying to put that together. If the board wishes us to move forward to bring something back to them for further consideration.
Do we need a vote on that?
Well, here's a motion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we would need a vote to authorize use of our solicitor. Is there a second?
Second?
All right. Any questions?
Thank you.
Taking it back.
Got on camera.
I'm afraid I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, sure.
On
In short,
PACE.
yep. It's a clean energy program. It's a brand new law, I think passed this summer, June maybe. And Pennsylvania, I think, is now the 38th state to adopt something like it. It enables townships, municipalities generally speaking, to create administrative programs. There's no financing involved. There's no public money involved. They're administrative oversight programs that are created to enable businesses, including agricultural industries, to go out and get loans to improve their infrastructure, electrical or water or otherwise, to improve their own business energy efficiency. And say to the loan provider, which in the normal course of business, that Susquehanna Township has a PACE program and we are participating in it, and it enables the business to finance the loan through the administration of the township by paying once a year on the property tax. So it's an upfront cost reduction, and it's sort of a business and economic development encouragement for the groups that are allowed to participate in it. Unfortunately, residents are not by law. It's in Pennsylvania. It's only allowed for commercial, industrial, and agricultural purposes. But the bottom line is, as long as the township runs the programming, maintains the records, then the loan is repaid as an additional lien on the property tax, and it's entirely voluntary. No one actually has to participate or sign up to get a loan and pay it back this way. It just encourages businesses to do it because of certain financial advantages. And we can go into greater detail. I think they can be structured in different ways with nuances. I don't have any model ordinance language to provide to you, but the entire board has received 2 or 3 times materials from township staff about what I've just discussed and other attachments. And we can certainly use that going forward to describe what it's done. The reason I think it's important, one, it's brand new. I think it would be cool if we had a program like it. The township, as we all know, is relatively well developed. This would be a program that would encourage businesses to reinvest in the community.
The benefit for businesses, do they pay less in taxes?
No, they pay when they pay their tax, they pay their finance charge. Well, they repay the loan that they're making. So it's added to the property tax.
So what's the benefit to a business?
So the benefit is that the cost associated with the financing or the debt service associated with the financing is less than the amount of money that they're saving in terms of the energy efficiencies implemented. So if they're saving X dollars in electricity costs, for example,
Right.
they're banking on is that the assessment, the separate assessment, is less than the amount that they were paying previously on electric. So that difference is the basis for consideration of somebody voluntarily entering into such an arrangement.
Well, I think the other advantage is that they may get a loan for this type of thing that they wouldn't be able to get without this program being in place, because the lender moves into first position because of the fact that it's reflected
Correct.
as part of their tax bill. And of course, any other lenders have to agree to that as part of the condition of the loan.
Exactly. It's a lien on the property, essentially. And it's an improvement in the business for energy efficiency of some type, and it's entirely voluntary participation, and the township is actually prohibited from using public funds, so there's no financial risk on the township's side. It's a benefit to the community and the business interest.
Does the township administer the program?
For record-keeping purposes, yes.
And what did you say it was commercial and industrial businesses?
And agricultural.
So do we have any idea how many businesses that might apply to in the township?
We do not at this point, no.
Do any of our neighbors have this?
Not that we're aware, as Commissioner Sanderson noted, the legislation was just, the authorizing legislation was just passed.
Yeah, within the last 3 months.
So if it's a business decision of Susquehanna Township versus, say, Squidara Township.
That's right.
Which does not have it.
That's right.
All things being equal, tipping point, this could be one of those that tips it
Correct.
our way.
Especially when you talk about large facilities. And we've often talked about very large employers in Susquehanna Township that have a lot of square footage. An incentive to remain here might be the tipping point.
Or future development that may take place, for example, on the state hospital property.
Mr.
What-
President, my understanding is what the Board of Commissioners would authorize is merely for us to work with Commissioner Sanderson to structure an ordinance, and because it's such a new law, we would have to, of
Right.
course, bring it back through administration, through the commissioner, and back to the board to consider and have a further discussion. We're not doing anything more than
That's
that.
correct.
Right, that's, yeah, my hesitation is, I'd love to be on the cutting edge of things too, but I also like to see the kinks worked out of things before I get involved in them, and if this is brand new. And that's my hesitation. And
Yeah, I mean, some
those
of
are
what.
billable hours too, that you'd be working on it, so
Right,
that's,
right, exactly.
no offense.
No,
So
none taken.
that's where I'm coming from.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, as was noted, a lot of our guidance will be out-of-state guidance, obviously, because of the fact that the enabling legislation is just present in Pennsylvania. But as the commissioner noted, there are 30-something other states that
have adopted this already.
But we think that we have a fairly large energy and PUC group in Harrisburg, in our Harrisburg office. I suspect that they will be able to, if the commissioners want to move forward, we'll be able to move something reasonably quickly because of their prior experience with programs like this.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any other new business? Okay, any commissioner comments?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
Mr. President, oftentimes elected officials get a bad rap. I think that perhaps lack of civility at certain levels of government reflects poorly on those at other levels of government. And I'd like to take the opportunity just to point out Susquehanna Township and the commissioners here and staff as a notable exception. Within the last month, my oldest son had become seriously ill with a life-threatening health condition that involved a respiratory failure. He was in the hospital at Hershey for about 9 days, and intensive care, in fact. And the care, prayers, and good wishes I've received from this board just had such an incredible impact on me. And I want to thank all of you, staff and board members, profoundly for that, for your prayers, for your good wishes, and so forth. And I think it speaks more to the public servants, probably nationwide, than the headlines that we read every day. Thank you.
Glad he's doing better. That as well.
Mr. President, first thing, I want to thank Commissioner Pine for reminding me, because I too wanted to take an opportunity to thank the community, and I can't say this without saying thank you to our police. And just so you'll know, and thank you for the people that had offered, or my fellow commissioners that had offered to help as well. And I'm speaking about, we had a student at Susquehanna Township that over the summer they lost one of the basketball players. She lost her mom and her dad this summer. And first thing, I want to thank Hannah family, because the school, when they found out what happened, the superintendent came to the service and just let the family know that that we are going to help these students. And so I gotta say thank you to the school district for just being available to these kids in their time of need. Our police department, police get a bad rap. I sent a text to our chief, and our police officers in Susquehanna Township came up with a donation for this family, for the kids. And I need to publicly say thank you for what you guys did, and for my fellow commissioners when I sent out an email, although I didn't follow through on my end. But I want to thank you all for asking me and asking what could you all do to help. And so I'm saying thank you on behalf of the family. And I want to thank Commissioner Pine for reminding me. And what he said is true. Sometimes, and during this time, the police are getting a bad rap. And people attack public officials every day, even in general conversation. And I know the guys that I serve with here, guys and lady, I couldn't agree with that. And I give everyone on this board a hard time, especially Commissioner Sanderson. But even him.
It's okay, I'm smiling into the camera.
But like I said, I'd just like to say I want to thank you all, from me and from the Hannah family. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Should we pay some bills?
Mr. President, I make
Yes.
a motion to accept the report of bills paid in the amount of $1,097,549.51. Not a largest of the large bills, but certainly not one of the smaller ones.
Light 'em up.
Second,
Yeah.
in honor of Fred.
Here's to you, Fred. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to adjourn?
Second, beat me to it.
It's been moved to second. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
We are out of here. Thank you.